Life inside Angola Prison America's largest maximum security prison. The gates open slowly, not with urgency, not with hesitation, but with the heavy certainty of something that has opened thousands of times before and will open thousands of times again. Beyond those gates lies 18,000 acres of land, fields stretching farther than the eye can see, miles of razor wire fencing, guard towers watching silently from every direction. This is not just a prison. This is a world of its own. Hidden deep in rural Louisiana sits the largest maximum security prison in the United States, a place so massive, so isolated, and so feared that many inmates simply call it the farm. But Angola Prison is not a farm in the traditional sense. It is a place where men wake before sunrise not because they want to, but because they have no choice. It is a place where sentences stretch longer than lifetimes. And for many who enter, there is only one way out, through a coffin. For over a century, Angola has held some of the most dangerous and violent offenders in America: murderers, gang leaders, armed robbers, lifers. But behind the fences and guard towers lies a deeper story, one built on history, punishment, survival, and redemption. Because Angola wasn't always just a prison. Long before the barbed wire, before the gun towers, before the steel bars, this land held a very different kind of captivity. And some say it never truly ended. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. This is life inside Angola Prison. Angola Prison sits in one of the most isolated regions in Louisiana. Surrounded on three sides by the Mississippi River, the prison forms a natural fortress, a place where escape is nearly impossible. The closest town sits miles away. There are no sidewalks nearby, no neighborhoods, no stores, just farmland and fences. To reach Angola, visitors must travel down a long, winding road that seems to stretch endlessly through rural countryside. And as they approach, the first thing they see isn't the prison itself. It's the land, thousands upon thousands of acres, flat fields stretching across the horizon, fields that look peaceful from a distance. But up close, they tell a different story, because these fields are still worked today by inmates, just like they were over 100 years ago. The prison gets its name from the Angola plantation, a massive plantation that once stood on this very land. The plantation was named after the African country of Angola, the homeland of many enslaved people who were forced to work here. After the Civil War, the land changed ownership, but the labor did not. By the late 1800s, prisoners were brought in to work the same fields, and Angola Prison was born. In those early days, Angola wasn't run like a prison. It was run like a labor camp. Prisoners worked from sunrise to sunset, guarded by armed men on horseback. Punishments were harsh. Living conditions were brutal, and survival was never guaranteed. Some historians say Angola became known as one of the harshest prisons in America. Others say it was simply a continuation of what came before. Every inmate who arrives at Angola has a first day, a day they will never forget. The bus ride in is long and quiet. Most inmates stare out the windows, watching the world disappear behind them. City streets turn into highways. Highways turn into country roads. And eventually, country roads turn into nothing but open land. By the time the prison gates come into view, reality begins to settle in. This is not county jail. This is not a short sentence. This is Angola. And for many inmates arriving here, this will be their final destination. Some are serving decades. Others are serving life. And at Angola, life often means exactly that. When new inmates arrive, they are taken through processing, fingerprints, photographs, medical checks, uniforms. Personal belongings are taken away, replaced with state-issue clothing. White shirts, blue pants, boots. Simple, standardized, identical. Because inside Angola, individual identity fades quickly. Inmates are assigned numbers, housing units, work assignments, schedules, Everything is decided for them. From the moment they arrive, their time is no longer their own. Angola isn't just large. It's massive, at over 18,000 acres. Angola is larger than Manhattan. Inside the prison grounds are multiple housing units, work camps, churches, fields, roads, factories, even a rodeo arena. Some inmates live miles away from others, all within the same prison. Guards patrol the grounds in trucks, not just on foot, because walking across Angola would take hours. And that size plays a role in everything, including escape. Escaping Angola is one of the hardest prison breaks imaginable. The prison is surrounded by the Mississippi River on 3 sides. On the 4th side, fences, barbed wire, and armed guards. Even if an inmate made it past the fences, they would still face miles of open land. No transportation, no towns, no easy way out. And the river itself is dangerous. Strong currents, hidden debris, unpredictable depths. Over the years, some inmates have tried to escape. Very few have succeeded. Most are caught. Some never make it far at all. Because Angola is designed to hold people for good. Angola houses some of Louisiana's most serious offenders. Many inmates are convicted of violent crimes: murder, armed robbery, kidnapping, repeat offenses. Some inmates arrive in their 20s and remain into their 60s and 70s. It's not uncommon for inmates to spend decades here, watching time pass slowly, year after year, season after season, until eventually Angola becomes the only life they know. Angola is often called a prison for lifers. A large percentage of inmates will never be released, which creates a unique environment. Because when inmates know they will never leave, their perspective changes. Some become angry. Some become withdrawn. Some try to build a life inside the prison walls. Jobs, education, religion, routine becomes everything. Because routine makes time pass. And at Angola, time is the one thing inmates have plenty of. The day at Angola begins early, very early, before sunrise. Lights come on, doors open, roll call begins. Inmates line up to be counted. Every day starts the same way. Order, structure, control. Breakfast comes next. Simple meals. Nothing fancy, but enough to get through the day. Because for many inmates, the real work is about to begin. By the time the sun begins to rise over Angola, the fields are already filling with movement. Lines of inmates walk in formation across the dirt roads, boots pressing into the same soil that has been worked for generations. Each man carries tools, hoes, shovels, sacks, the instruments of daily labor. From a distance, the scene almost looks peaceful. Morning light stretching across the fields, mist rising from the ground, birds flying overhead. But the calm disappears the moment the trucks arrive. Armed guards step out, shotguns visible, radios crackling, eyes scanning constantly. Work assignments are given quickly. There is no discussion, no negotiation, just instructions. And within minutes, the work begins. Some inmates plant crops, others harvest vegetables, others clear land. Rows stretch endlessly across the property acres of farmland worked almost entirely by inmate labor. Corn, soybeans, vegetables. Hey, the work is physical, repetitive, demanding, and it lasts for hours. Under the Louisiana sun, temperatures climb fast. Humidity hangs in the air like a blanket. Sweat soaks through uniforms before the morning is even halfway over. For some inmates, this is the hardest part of Angola. Not the cells, not the guards, not the fences, but the endless days in the fields. Days that blur together until weeks become months, and months become years. The work crews are often called the line. Long rows of inmates working side by side, moving forward together, step by step, swing by swing. From above, the lines look almost mechanical, like parts of a machine moving in sync. But each man in that line has a different story, different past, different sentence, different future. Some talk quietly as they work. Others stay silent. Some focus on the horizon. Others stare at the dirt beneath their feet. Because thinking too far ahead can be dangerous in a place like Angola. For many inmates, the line becomes a kind of rhythm, a routine that divides a day into manageable pieces. Morning work, midday break, afternoon work, return to housing, sleep, repeat. Over time, the rhythm becomes normal, and normal becomes survival. Louisiana heat is relentless. By midday, temperatures often climb into the high 90s. But the temperature alone isn't the problem. It's the humidity. The air feels thick, heavy, almost impossible to escape. Inmates wipe sweat from their faces constantly. Uniforms stick to their skin. Boots grow heavier with every step. Water breaks are allowed, but they're brief. Work resumes quickly because the schedule must be maintained. Some inmates struggle with the heat more than others, especially older inmates, especially lifers who have been working these fields for decades. And every summer, the heat tests everyone, guards included. Watching over the fields are the towers, tall, silent, constant. From inside the towers, guards can see for miles. Fields stretch in every direction. Movement is easy to spot. Anything unusual stands out immediately. Each tower is equipped with radios and weapons, not for show, for control. The towers serve as a reminder. No matter how far inmates walk into the fields, they're always being watched, always being monitored, always within range. And that knowledge changes behavior, because in a place as large as Angola, visibility is power. Not all inmates work the fields. Angola functions like a small city, and cities require workers. Some inmates cook, preparing meals for thousands of people every day. Others work maintenance, fixing roads, repairing buildings, maintaining equipment. Some inmates work in workshops, producing furniture, license plates, clothing, shoes. Each job comes with its own routine, its own risks, its own challenges. And over time, jobs become part of an inmate's identity. Inside Angola, what you do often defines who you are. The kitchen at Angola never truly stops. Meals must be prepared every day. For thousands of inmates and staff, work begins early, long before breakfast is served. Inmates assigned to kitchen duty move quickly, chopping vegetables, stirring massive pots, carrying trays, cleaning constantly. The scale is enormous. Industrial ovens, large mixing machines, endless rows of trays. And everything must stay on schedule, because when feeding thousands, delays ripple quickly. For some inmates, kitchen duty is considered a good job. It's indoors, shaded from the heat, but it comes with its own pressures. Sharp tools, hot surfaces, heavy lifting, constant supervision, and the responsibility of feeding an entire prison population. At the end of the workday, inmates return to their housing units. Some units are older, concrete walls worn down by decades of use, paint faded, floors scratched and cracked. Other units are newer, more structured, more controlled. But regardless of the building, the routine remains the same. Count time, lock in, meals, lights out. Each unit develops its own atmosphere, its own unwritten rules, its own tensions. Because when hundreds of men live together in close quarters, every detail matters. Respect, noise, space, timing. Small issues can grow quickly. And inside Angola, conflicts rarely stay small for long. Time moves differently in Angola. Days feel long. Weeks feel short. Years disappear quietly. Inmates mark time in different ways. Some count days. Some count seasons. Some stop counting entirely. Birthdays come and go. Holidays pass. Families change on the outside. Children grow up. Parents age. Life continues beyond the fences. But inside Angola, time feels suspended, frozen in routine, frozen in repetition, frozen in place, until eventually the outside world begins to feel distant, almost unreal. One of the most noticeable things about Angola is the number of older inmates, men in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Some spend decades here, more time inside than outside. Their routines are slower, their movements more careful, but their knowledge runs deep. They've seen Angola change over the years. New wardens, new rules, new buildings, new generations of inmates, and they understand something younger inmates often don't. Angola is not a temporary place. For many, it is permanent. New inmates stand out immediately. Their movements are uncertain, their eyes constantly scanning, their posture tense. Everything feels unfamiliar. The size, the noise, the routines, the rules. Even the silence feels different, because Angola has a kind of silence that only exists in isolated places. A silence broken only by boots on concrete, radios crackling, metal doors closing, and distant voices echoing down hallways. For new arrivals, adjusting takes time. Some adapt quickly, others struggle, because Angola demands adjustment, whether you're ready or not. Angola has rules, thousands of them, rules written in manuals, rules posted on walls, rules enforced by guards. But the rules that matter most are the ones that aren't written down. Every prison has them. And at Angola, learning those rules can mean the difference between survival and constant conflict. New inmates are often told the same thing within their first few days. Watch first, talk later. Because Angola has its own order, its own structure, its own invisible system that operates quietly beneath the surface of daily life. Respect is everything. Disrespect, even accidental, can cause problems that last years. Where you sit, who you talk to, who you owe, who you trust, these things matter. And mistakes are remembered. Inside Angola, not everyone holds the same status. Some inmates keep to themselves. Some form small groups. Some become known across entire housing units. Reputation spreads quickly in a place where people rarely leave. Stories travel from dorm to dorm, from yard to yard, from one generation of inmates to the next. Some inmates are known for their strength, some for their intelligence, some for their temper, others for their calm. And over time, certain inmates develop influence, not official authority, but influence nonetheless. They help resolve disputes, offer advice, keep order within their areas. Because when thousands of men live in close quarters, structure forms naturally, even without permission. Conflict exists in every prison. Angola is no exception. Tension can build slowly, sometimes over days, sometimes over years, and often over things that might seem small on the outside. A disagreement, a misunderstanding, a look interpreted the wrong way. Inside Angola, space is limited. Privacy is rare, and patience is constantly tested. Guards monitor closely. Housing units are watched. Movements are tracked. But even with supervision, conflicts still happen, because Angola holds thousands of men, each with their own past, each with their own struggles, each carrying their own story. When rules are broken, discipline follows. Sometimes it's minor, loss of privileges, restricted movement, extra duties. Other times, consequences are more serious. Inmates may be separated from the general population, moved to different housing units, placed under closer supervision, because maintaining order at Angola is constant work. Every day, every shift, every hour, structure is what keeps the prison functioning. Without it, everything would begin to break down. Sometimes Angola goes into lockdown. When this happens, everything stops. Work crews return early. Housing units close. Movement is restricted. Doors stay shut. Counts become more frequent. Silence spreads quickly during lockdown. The usual sounds disappear. No work trucks. No movement in the halls. No distant conversations. Just the occasional sound of boots walking past. Lockdowns can last hours, sometimes days. And during lockdown, time feels heavier than usual, because when movement stops, there's nothing left but waiting. For some inmates, Angola becomes even smaller. Solitary confinement removes the routine of general population, removes the noise, removes the interaction, removes the movement. Cells are simple, limited space, minimal furnishings. Time alone stretches differently. Hours feel longer, days feel slower, and without the normal rhythm of prison life, time becomes harder to track. Some inmates spend weeks there, some spend months, some spend longer. And when they return to the general population, adjustment isn't always easy, because Angola is structured around routine, and solitary breaks that routine completely. The yard offers a different kind of space. Open air, room to move, room to walk, room to breathe. For many inmates, yard time is important. A break from the housing units, a break from the noise, some walk laps, over and over, day after day. Others exercise, push-ups, pull-ups, running short distances. Some just sit, watching, thinking, talking quietly. Because in Angola, even small freedoms matter, and time outside feels different from time inside. One of the most active places at Angola is the chapel. Religion plays a large role in daily life for many inmates. Services are held regularly. Different groups gather throughout the week. Some inmates attend occasionally. Others attend every chance they get. For some, faith becomes a routine. For others, it becomes a purpose. The chapel offers something Angola rarely does: reflection, stillness, hope. Inside those walls, inmates talk about change, about forgiveness, about the past, and sometimes about the future. Even when that future remains inside the prison, education programs operate inside Angola as well. Some inmates learn trades: carpentry, mechanical work, basic maintenance. Others focus on academics, reading, writing, math. Some pursue diplomas. Others take college-level courses when available. For lifers especially, education becomes a way to move forward, even when physically they remain in the same place. Because progress inside Angola doesn't always mean release. Sometimes it simply means growth. Over time, Angola becomes predictable. Wake up, count, eat, work, return, count again, sleep, repeat. The routine rarely changes. And eventually, routine becomes comfort. Not because it's easy, not because it's enjoyable, but because it's familiar. And familiarity brings stability. In a place where uncertainty once dominated, routine becomes something inmates rely on, something they expect, something they need. Because without routine, time in Angola would feel endless. Visitation day begins long before the visitors arrive. Inmates wake up earlier than usual. Uniforms are checked carefully, boots cleaned as best as possible, shirts straightened. Because visitation is different from every other day. Visitation is connection, a brief window between two separate worlds. Families begin lining up outside Angola early in the morning. Cars fill the parking areas slowly. Parents, spouses, children. Some visitors travel for hours just to spend a few moments inside. For many inmates, visitation becomes the most important day of the month. Sometimes the only day that feels real. Before visits begin, there is always waiting. Visitors wait in lines. Inmates wait in their housing units. Everyone waits for clearance, identification checks, approvals, processing, because Angola is strict about who enters, and strict about how visits happen. Inside, inmates sit quietly. Some rehearse conversations in their heads. Some worry. Some feel excitement. Others feel something closer to fear. Because time changes people. And sometimes the people waiting on the outside aren't the same as the ones they remember. When visitation begins, emotions fill the room quickly. Smiles, tears, laughter, silence. Some families embrace tightly, as if holding on to lost time. Others sit quietly at tables, talking softly, trying to fit weeks or months of conversation into a few short hours. Children grow between visits, sometimes noticeably, sometimes dramatically, and each visit becomes a reminder of time passing, not just inside Angola, but outside it too, because life continues, whether inmates are there to see it or not. Goodbyes are always the hardest part. They never get easier. Even for inmates who have been at Angola for decades, time runs out quickly during visits. Officers begin signaling the end. Conversations speed up. Hugs last longer. Voices grow quieter. And eventually, everyone must separate. Visitors walk back toward the parking lot. Inmates walk back toward the housing units. Two directions, two different lives, separated again, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes forever. For inmates without visitors, letters become everything. Mail call is one of the most anticipated parts of the day. Names are called out one by one. Some inmates receive letters regularly, stacks of envelopes, photos, cards. Others receive nothing. And over time, that silence can feel heavy, because letters are proof that someone remembers, proof that someone cares, proof that the outside world still exists. Some inmates keep letters for years, stored carefully, read over and over again, because words from the outside carry meaning inside Angola, more meaning than most people realize. Once a year, Angola transforms. The prison hosts an event unlike any other, the Angola Prison Rodeo. For a few days each year, the prison opens its gates to thousands of visitors. Bleachers fill, crowds gather. The atmosphere shifts completely. For a moment, Angola feels less like a prison and more like a fairground. Inmates participate in events, riding bulls, competing in challenges, selling handmade crafts, woodwork, paintings, leather goods, jewelry, items created inside the prison walls. For many inmates, the rodeo is a rare opportunity, a chance to interact with the outside world, a chance to feel seen, even if only briefly. During the rodeo, Angola shows a different face. Families walk the grounds. Children laugh. Music plays over loudspeakers. Food vendors serve meals. Visitors browse inmate-made goods. It feels almost surreal, because just beyond the arena, the prison continues as usual. Housing units remain locked. Counts continue. Schedules continue. Routine continues. The rodeo doesn't erase Angola. It simply exists alongside it, a temporary moment in a place defined by permanence. Many inmates at Angola are serving extremely long sentences, decades, life without parole, which means release is not guaranteed or even expected. Some inmates arrive young, in their 20s, sometimes younger, and they age inside the prison. Hair turns gray, posture changes, movement slow, and over time, Angola becomes the only home they know, not by choice, but by reality. Aging in prison presents unique challenges. Medical needs increase, mobility decreases, energy fades, but the routine remains the same. Counts still happen, schedules still exist, rules still apply. Older inmates often rely on each other, helping with small tasks, sharing knowledge, offering advice, because experience matters in Angola. And those who have survived the longest often understand the system best. Some inmates will never leave Angola alive. It's an unspoken truth, one that everyone understands, but rarely discusses openly. For lifers especially, release becomes less likely with time. Appeals run out, opportunities fade, and eventually the focus shifts from leaving to enduring, from hoping to accepting, and Angola becomes not just a prison, but a final destination. Long before Angola became a maximum security prison, this land told a different story. The fields that inmates walk today were once plantation fields. The dirt roads were once wagon paths. And the labor that takes place here now echoes a past that still lingers in quiet ways. For decades after the Civil War, Angola operated under systems that historians would later describe as harsh and exploitative. Prisoners worked the land under armed supervision. Living conditions were severe. Oversight was limited, and accountability was rare. In those early years, Angola developed a reputation for being one of the toughest prisons in America. Some called it punishment, others called it survival, but everyone agreed on one thing. Angola was not a place you wanted to end up. Over the years, Angola began to change. New leadership arrived. Policies shifted. Programs were introduced. Oversight increased. Gradually, Angola began evolving from what it once was into something different. Educational programs expanded. Religious services grew. Work programs became more structured, and conditions slowly improved. But change inside a place as large and historic as Angola does not happen overnight. It happens in stages, over years, over decades, and even today, Angola continues to evolve. Every prison is shaped by the people inside it, not just the inmates, but the staff, wardens, officers, volunteers, teachers, chaplains. Over time, different leaders have left their mark on Angola, each bringing their own ideas, their own priorities, their own approach to running the prison. Some focus on discipline, others focus on reform. Some emphasize structure, others emphasize opportunity. And each era left its own imprint on the prison. Because Angola is not frozen in time. It changes with the people who guide it. One of the most talked about chapters in Angola's history involves 3 inmates who became widely known beyond the prison walls. They would later be called the Angola Three. 3 men whose time at Angola became part of a much larger conversation. A conversation about incarceration, about conditions, about justice, and about time itself. For years, their story drew attention from outside the prison, from journalists, from activists, from legal teams. Their experiences became part of Angola's legacy, part of its history, part of its identity. And their story remains one of the most widely discussed chapters connected to the prison, because Angola is more than just buildings and fences. It's also the stories that unfold inside them. At Angola, punishment often comes in the form of time, not just days, not just years, but decades. Time measured in seasons, summers in the fields, winters in the housing units, years marked by routine. For many inmates, time becomes something they learn to live with, something they adapt to, something they endure. The early years are often the hardest. Adjustment takes effort, acceptance takes time, and eventually, the days begin to blend together, until time itself becomes part of the sentence. Survival at Angola often comes down to routine. Wake up at the same time, eat at the same time, work at the same time, sleep at the same time, day after day, year after year. Routine creates stability, and stability creates predictability. In a place where so much is out of an inmate's control, predictability matters. It reduces tension, reduces uncertainty, reduces stress, and over time, routine becomes a coping mechanism, a way to navigate life inside the prison. Some inmates search for a purpose inside Angola, not because they have to, but because they need to. Purpose gives structure meaning. It gives routine direction. Some find purpose in work, perfecting their skills, learning trades, improving their craft. Others find purpose in helping fellow inmates, offering advice, sharing experience, providing guidance. Some find purpose in education, others in faith, because purpose provides something Angola cannot take away, a sense of meaning, even inside prison walls. For a small number of inmates, Angola is not the end. Some eventually earn release. After years, sometimes decades, release day begins like any other day. Counts happen, meals are served, schedules continue. But for one inmate, everything is different. Paperwork is finalized, belongings are packed, final steps are completed, and eventually, they walk toward the same gates they entered years before. Only this time, they're walking out. Walking out of Angola can feel surreal. The same road, the same gates, the same fences, but everything feels different, because beyond those gates lies a world that has changed. Technology has advanced. Cities have grown. People have aged. and life has moved forward, sometimes faster than expected. For inmates who spent decades inside, the outside world can feel unfamiliar, almost overwhelming, because Angola was structured, predictable, controlled, and the outside world is none of those things. But for every inmate who leaves Angola, many remain, returning to the same housing units, the same routines, the same schedules, watching others leave, while knowing they may never follow, because Angola holds many lifers, men whose sentences extend indefinitely, men whose futures remain inside the prison, men who understand that Angola is not temporary, it is permanent. Inside Angola, some men have spent decades learning its rhythms, decades watching seasons change, decades watching younger inmates come and go, and decades understanding the weight of time. Meet Thomas Asterisk, a lifer who has spent over 40 years at Angola. He knows every corner of the prison, every dirt road, every housing unit, every blade of grass in the fields. Thomas describes life here not in days or years, but in small moments, moments of connection, moments of survival, moments of clarity. Because for him, Angola is not just punishment. It is a classroom, a teacher of endurance, a test of human resilience. Thomas recalls his first years. The heat, the work, the guards, the fights. I thought I'd break. I thought I wouldn't survive. But you learn. You adapt. You find small victories. You hold on to something even if it's just a morning cup of coffee or a letter from home. That's what keeps you alive here. In Angola, survival is both physical and mental. Every decision matters. Every interaction matters. Every day is a negotiation. And over time, the mind adapts, the body adapts, and the spirit finds ways to endure. For many lifers, there comes a moment of realization, a moment when the prison walls stop feeling entirely like a cage and start to feel like home, not because they want it to, not because it is easy, but because it is all they know. Because decades of routine, structure, and endurance have reshaped life. Every sound, every smell, every shadow, every ray of sunlight. They notice things differently now. Appreciate small details that outsiders never would. Even the smallest freedoms, a walk in the yard, a conversation with a friend, a moment of reflection become treasured. Beyond survival, beyond punishment, some men find meaning. Faith becomes a cornerstone for many. Education becomes a pathway to purpose. Crafts, work, mentoring ways to leave a legacy inside the prison walls. Some mentors help new inmates adapt. Some provide guidance on avoiding conflict. Some help others find ways to endure and survive. Because in Angola, life is measured not in freedom, but in endurance, resilience, and legacy. And here's the twist. Angola is both a place of despair and a place of transformation. A place where men enter as strangers to themselves and to one another. A place where violence, betrayal, and survival dominate early years. But a place where time, structure, and routine can reshape even the most hardened lives. Some men never leave. Some men change profoundly. Some men find faith, purpose, and community where none existed before. In Angola, life is both punishment and redemption, both cage and classroom, both final destination, an unexpected journey. As the sun sets over the Mississippi River, casting long shadows across the fields, the truth becomes clear. Angola is more than a prison. It is a microcosm of humanity. The worst and the best aspects coexist here. Fear and trust, violence and protection, despair and hope. Time passes differently. Life continues differently. And every man inside Angola carries a story of choices, consequences, endurance, and sometimes redemption. This is life inside Angola Prison, America's largest maximum security facility, where the past lingers in the fields, where time is both enemy and teacher, where routine becomes survival, where hope is rare but possible, where every day tests the limits of the human spirit, and where, even behind fences, razor wire, and walls, life continues. For decades, for a lifetime, for those who remain, Angola is more than a prison. It is their world. It is their reality. And it is a story that demands to be understood. Because Angola is not just a place on a map. It is a testament to endurance, a testament to humanity, a testament to the unimaginable stories that unfold behind bars, stories of danger, mystery, betrayal, survival, and sometimes redemption. If you love true crime and prison documentaries, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and never miss a story.